In episode 2, BlueRiver made a working strategic choice. So it will focus on regional retailers and selected private label customers that value reliable delivery, controlled customization, traceability, and responsive service. Now the team faces the next question. If those are the promises the company wants to make, what must the quality management system include? This episode is about scope and process architecture, not as a certificate sentence and not as a diagram for the wall, but as a management decision. So, what products, activities, locations, external providers, and processes must work together for BlueRiver to deliver its chosen promises consistently? Episode 2 ended with a strategic choice. So BlueRiver cannot design the QMS around every possible customer request. It will focus on regional retailers and selected private label customers. But the choice is not enough. A promise needs a boundary. So if BlueRiver promises reliable regional supply and controlled private label customization, the organization must decide what is inside the QMS and what is outside it. That boundary will shape responsibilities, processes, resources, controls, and evidence. Episode 3 therefore connects the sequence: intended results, strategic customer choices, relevant requirements, QMS scope, and the architecture of processes. Scope is often treated as a formal statement written for certification. That is too small. For BlueRiver, scope is a design decision. So it asks what must be included in the system so that the chosen promises can be fulfilled. So the QMS scope should not describe what is convenient to certify or what has always been done. It should describe what must be controlled to deliver the intended results. And that includes products and services, locations, activities, organizational boundaries, outsourced processes, and the interactions between processes. A credible scope begins with a promise and works backward to the system required to make that promise reliable. The first scope decision concerns products and services. So, BlueRiver includes bottled water and flavored beverages supplied in standard retail formats and selected private label formats. But the scope is not only about the physical product. Customers also rely on services surrounding the product: order review, customer change handling, traceability information, performance reporting, and complaint response. And at the same time, inclusion must not be automatic. So every special pack or one-off request or hospitality variant should not define the system just because someone once accepted an order. So the useful question is not simply what do we sell? It is what promises must the QMS support? The second decision is about locations and activities. BlueRiver operates one production site, so the plant is inside the QMS. But the QMS cannot begin at the filling line. The selected customer promises require commercial review, planning, purchasing, warehousing, production, laboratory testing, product release, dispatch, and feedback handling. So these activities cross departmental boundaries. A retailer does not experience sales, planning, production, and dispatch separately. It experiences whether the right product arrives complete and on time. A private label customer does not experience artwork control as a document. It experiences whether the correct approved version reaches production. Now, the boundary follows the work that turns requirements into delivered results. BlueRiver also needs an organizational boundary. So the QMS includes top management decisions, commercial commitments, operations, support processes, quality assurance, quality control, and performance review. But some important elements sit at interfaces. So sales forecast may come from customers. Order changes may arrive through customer portals. Transport may be performed by logistic providers. Packaging may be produced by external suppliers. And testing may sometimes use external laboratories. So these activities may not all be performed by BlueRiver people, but they can still affect product conformity, delivery, and customer confidence. A QMS boundary is not an excuse to lose control of what customers will experience. Outsourced processes are an important part of the scope decision. So, external providers can sit outside the company and still be inside the QMS risk. So, packaging suppliers affect approved artwork, barcodes, caps, and case configuration. Logistic providers affect delivery windows and customer communication. External laboratories may affect release decisions. Maintenance contractors may affect the availability of critical equipment. So, BlueRiver does not need to own every activity, but it must determine the controls needed for externally provided processes, products, and services. And that includes requirements, communication, approval, monitoring, evidence, and response when performance is not acceptable. Now, the next decision concerns applicability. So, some organizations approach this question defensively, as if the aim were to exclude requirements. No, BlueRiver uses a different approach. The question is not, do we like this requirement? The question is, does this requirement apply to the QMS needed to deliver our products and promises? For example, if BlueRiver simply fills standard products according to fixed specifications, design and development may be limited. But if it develops a new private label bottle, label, or packaging configuration, now design and development controls may be relevant. Applicability must be justified by reality, and any non-applicable requirement must not weaken the ability to provide conforming products and services or satisfy customers. The formal scope statement can now be drafted. It might read, so the BlueRiver QMS applies to the commercial review, planning, purchasing, production, verification, release, storage, dispatch, and customer feedback processes for bottled water and flavored beverages supplied from the BlueRiver production site to regional retailers and selected private label customers, including control of relevant externally provided products, services, and processes. Now, this draft is not for to include in the certificate. No, is to use during the implementation. Okay. Now, this sentence is compact, but it carries several decisions. Okay, so products and services are named. Okay, the site is named, the value flow is named, the target customer groups are reflected, and the external providers are not forgotten. So it's no longer a generic certificate sentence. It is a boundary for the system BlueRiver intends to build. A scope statement says what is included, but it does not yet show how the work interacts. BlueRiver now needs a process architecture. A process map should not be a decorative diagram. It should help the organization understand how customer requirements become planned work, purchased materials, produced product, verified conformity, released orders, delivered shipments, and customer learning. So, the key diagnostic question is, where can the chosen promise fail because information, material, authority, capacity, or evidence does not flow. This is where the approach from episode 1 becomes practical again. Follow the work, not the organization chart. So, this is where BlueRiver uh, connects scope with process priorities. So, different business models require different distinctive capabilities. So, a company competing mainly through operational excellence needs strong capacity planning, scheduling, standardization, delivery reliability, and cost discipline. A product or brand leadership model places more weight on product development, customer insight, brand management, product testing, and claims or compliance. And a customer solutions model requires account management, service responsiveness, configuration, people capability, and customer intimacy. So, BlueRiver is not trying to be equally distinctive in everything. Its QMS must identify which processes are strategic, not only which processes exist. For regional retailers, the critical promise is dependable supply. So the process architecture must protect flow and delivery reliability. The critical processes include demand and capacity planning, order review, standard packaging, and barcode control, inventory control, supplier reliability, production scheduling, release, dispatch, and contingency communication when supply is at risk. So, if BlueRiver wants to be credible with this customer group, a weak planning process can be more dangerous than a weak document. The scope of the QMS, therefore, is to include the work that protects product availability and reliable delivery, not only the work performed by the quality department. Now, for selected private label customers, the critical promise is controlled customization. So, the process architecture must protect customer specific requirements before they reach the line. So, critical processes include contract and specification review, artwork approval and version control, supplier qualification for customer specific materials, change management before production, traceability, product release, performance reporting, and complaint response. So, a wrong label or unapproved packaging version may look like a production mistake, but the real failure often occurred earlier. And the most important control may take place days before production starts. The QMS must therefore include the upstream processes that define, approve, change, and communicate customer specific requirements. So, the same QMS can serve both strategic customer groups, but not through identical emphasis. So, for regional retailers, the dominant question is whether BlueRiver can supply consistently at the required volume, cost, and delivery rhythm. The critical emphasis is planning, availability, dispatch, and communication. For selected private label customers, the dominant question is whether BlueRiver can control customer specific requirements and changes without errors, confusion, or operational instability. So, the critical emphasis is specifications, artwork, traceability, and change control. And this is why the process map must show both common flow and different control intensity. The process interaction map presents BlueRiver as a system of action, not as a collection of departments or ISO clauses. The central flow begins with a customer who has a need. So BlueRiver must win an appropriate order, plan production, prepare the work, manufacture the order, verify the product, release it, and deliver it. So the result is not merely a finished bottle. It is a customer who has received the promise BlueRiver agreed to fulfill. Other processes enable that flow. So BlueRiver must develop products and packaging, manage suppliers, order materials, maintain equipment, and develop the competence of the people involved. And top management leads the organization by setting direction, priorities, objectives, and resources. And customer feedback then returns information to the processes where future performance can be changed. And these are not departments, okay? Each process crosses function and coordinates different people around a common result. So the strategic importance of each process is also different. So for regional retailers, planning and delivery reliability are particularly critical. But for private label customers, product and packaging development, supplier control, preparation, verification, and release require greater attention. So the key question is therefore not which processes appear on the map, it is which process failures will break the promises BlueRiver has chosen to make. One of the most useful results of process architecture is that BlueRiver stops treating every process as if it had the same strategic weight. So some processes are critical for the chosen promise. So capacity planning, specification and artwork control, supplier reliability, change management, traceability and release, and delivery performance. Other processes must not fail, but they may not be the source of competitive distinction. So calibration, training records, document control, maintenance records, non-conformity records, and internal audits still matter, okay? But the point is not to neglect them, okay? The point is to avoid investing equal energy everywhere. Design intensity should follow the promises that matter most. Now, the practical output of episode 3 is two connected artifacts. The first is the QMS scope statement. It defines the products and services, sites and activities, customer groups, external providers, and applicability decisions included in the system. The second is the process interaction map. It shows the end-to-end flow, critical processes, interfaces and handoffs, inputs, outputs, criteria, evidence, and links to chosen promises. Together, they turn strategic choice into system design. BlueRiver can now explain not only what is included in the QMS, but why it is included and how the included processes must work together. Now, BlueRiver has now moved from intended results to strategic customer choices, relevant requirements, QMS scope, and process architecture. So the system boundary is clearer. The critical processes are more visible, but the map does not make decisions by itself. So people will still face pressure to ship, change, approve, skip, wait, or escalate. So the next episode therefore moves to leadership, culture, and the decisions people make. So how should leaders shape quality decisions and behavior so that the QMS is not only designed correctly, but actually used when operational pressure rises? So if your organization needs support with the transition to ISO 9001-2026, or if you are looking to improve your current quality management system, perhaps I can help. I also support organizations that are starting from the beginning and want to implement ISO 9001 in a practical, business-oriented way. So you can contact me using the email shown on the screen or send me a direct message on LinkedIn.